But eventually now, after this next election, or before, but after this next election, eventually we got to get together and work things out. But you know what? And don't get mad at me. Well, you can get mad at me because this is a free country. For too long, all of you haven't paid attention. It's part of why we're in this mess. I know it's real easy to blame politicians. My God, I know it's easy. And I know when you turn on the TV, it looks like all we do, it looks like we're two 10-year-olds, right? Just throwing toys at each other. Tough. Tough. That's your fault and that's my fault. You let it get this way and I did. We all did. These are huge problems. You know what? We're arguing about some really important things. Some real important things. The Supreme Court's about to decide in a month whether your government in this country has a right to force you to buy something just because you breathe. Now, no matter where you stand on that issue, that's a really big deal. That's worth fighting for. So my very long-winded, I apologize. My answer is, cut us some slack. It's the country right now is going through, I've said a revolution. Before I scare anybody, I'm going to say with a smile on my face. The country is going through a revolution. And what's your first name?
I'm Kenneth.
Kenneth, what do I mean by that? I've been saying that for a while. We're having a knockdown, drag-em-out debate about the very core essence of what it means to be an American. When you do something like that, we don't do this often. We do this once every 100-some years. When you do that, things can get kind of ugly. Things can get kind of passionate. Eventually, we're going to find our way through it. So be patient, one. Be patient, one. Because we are arguing and fighting about big things.
But you have to have results, sir. You can't keep banging heads.
Give me an example. And I love asking this, and I mean this, Captain. Give me one issue where you wish Republicans and Democrats could come together and do one thing. What is
solve the Medicare problem. Solve our health care.
Okay, stop.
Don't talk about it.
Stop, Kenneth. This is great. You and I are going to go at it. I love this. It's a great point. Okay, so do something about Medicare, right? Okay. Here, so I'm giving you my background. Okay, so do something about Medicare. So, you've got the president, you've got the Democrats in the Senate, and you have the Republicans in the House. All three of us are supposed to put forth a budget that will outline what we're going to do about Medicare. And then we try to work it out. So the president gives us a budget that doesn't even mention Medicare. One. Two, the Senate, don't know if you know this, hasn't proposed or put forth a budget in 3 years. So here come the Republicans. We say, okay, that's not right. Here's our budget. Here's what we think we should do about Medicare. Remember, nobody else, none of the other two even talk about Medicare. Let's sit down, let's talk about it. So the Republicans have put forth something, and on this one, the Democrats right now are just purely playing politics. Eventually, maybe they won't.
Let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not chastising you personally. I'm saying all of you.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't care what party, what flag you wave. You got to get together. Okay. You ever run a family?
Oh gosh, try to.
Okay, well that's it. That's exactly it.
Okay, he's asking me that.
Nobody is perfect. You don't have all the right answers. You do not. So get together.
Ken, this is a very short answer. That's going to happen. This is not me wishing when it would happen. It's not going to happen next month, and if you had $1,000 and you were going to Vegas, it probably won't happen before the election. I don't wish it that way, but right now everybody's campaigning. I think after this election, depending on what the makeup of Washington is, you are going to see people in Washington try to sit down and work some of these things out.
Well, let me end it here. I think it's because of all the show-offs in Washington trying to show off. They have all the answers, but nobody solves anything. And the poor people like us, we're stuck out here. Right or wrong?
No, hey, look, Kenneth, there is some truth to what you say. if we continue to fight like this for the next 20 years, we're gonna be in a lot of trouble. I agree with you.
You won't
But-
last
but-
that,
but-
you won't last that long, we'll get you out of the office.
Oh, I know.
You won't last that
Oh, yeah.
long.
By the way, Ken, I don't want to be in Washington that long. But if we had stayed asleep for another 20 years, we wouldn't be around either. And let me make one final point. You get mad rightly about a lot of the noise and anger and stuff coming out of Washington. Just imagine if the Republicans had never been sent to Congress in 2010.
Yeah, what would have happened?
Hold on. Imagine we hadn't been sent there. Remember the big fights last year? The budget, the debt ceiling, all those big fights, right? Maybe they bugged a lot of people in this room. Imagine if we weren't there. You know what? Wouldn't have been any fights. You know what? The country would not know what the debt ceiling is. The country would have spent even more money last year without any debate. So I ask you, Kenneth, what's worse? What we got now, where we had a big ugly fight about the debt ceiling, or we just raised it without anybody even knowing what it was, because that's what we did for 40 years and nobody ever questioned it. So you see what I'm saying? There is a time to fight and there's a time to sit down.
Well, you tell me when the log jam's gonna end.
Well, just my political answer is, hey, Kenneth, knowing politics like you and I do, everybody right now is running for re-election. So after this election, I think you're gonna see some coming together and working things out. That's certainly my hope.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah, that's certainly my hope. All the way in the back.
Yeah, a couple comments. So, I mean, we are in a political season now.
Thank you.
So, you know, politicians will be politicians, and, you know, what happens now until the election isn't a real good indicator of, I think, how we should be voting. My concern, I guess, builds upon, was it Kenneth's? And that is the budget. You know, the Republicans had struck a pretty good deal with Obama.
Oh, okay.
Why didn't you guys close on that?
I didn't hear the first part of what you said.
I said the Republicans struck a pretty good deal with Obama about a year ago. Why didn't you guys close on that?
Let me point to, I think, what you're referring to. There was the potential to have a grand bargain where there might have been some entitlement reform, some spending cuts, and something on the tax side. There was talk about tax increases, there was talk about tax simplification.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Why wasn't that deal closed by the Republicans?
Oh, gosh, and I can't answer that question because I never sat at those tables. I don't know. If you read about it, some people say Obama broke it down. Some people say Boehner broke it down. I honestly don't know.
I think the stumbling block was they needed some increases in the taxes. Where do you stand on some increases in taxes?
Well, I know where you're coming from then.
The debt wouldn't allow what we're asking.
But let me go here first.
There were lots of cuts. What about a few taxes on some people who can afford it?
Hold on. Hey. I'm this close to calling security. Here's again, speaking for myself, not knowing what happened in that potential grand bargain. We can't tax our way out of this debt. We can't even come close. Can't even come close. That's one answer.
No, but you had a pretty nice step there.
Well, but you know what? With all due respect, if you know what that grand bargain was more than I don't know that you know what it was more than I, and I've heard tons of conflicting reports. I couldn't even tell you what it was. I mean, we all read our certain things and watch our certain news channels. All of us do. And we tend to form our own opinions. Oh, Obama broke that deal down, or Boehner broke that deal down. I don't. I'm a freshman in Congress, and I couldn't tell you what happened. I can just tell you that the president, a couple years ago, appointed a commission, Walsh Simpson.
Amen.
His commission to, as you say, try to work us toward a grand bargain. The commission a year ago, came out with their findings. The president's own commission, and the president ignored it. Didn't even acknowledge it. Now, I believe, and I'm not a Democrat strategist, he could have made great hay if he'd have picked up Simpson and Bowles and said, here's the model. Because there was some stuff in there that guys like me liked. There was some in there I didn't like. There were some things in there Pelosi didn't like and some she did. But that could have been the basis for some sort of coming together. And why the president didn't use that, because this was well before, this was like I think the month before I got to Congress. That could have just set the tone, and he absolutely ignored it.
Did that proposal include some tax increases?
That proposal did include some tax increases. It included things I didn't like. But again, that's how you start a negotiation. This was his own commission, and he didn't even acknowledge it. He would have saved us a year of trouble if he had. Where am I coming from? I know a couple things. I know that there's a lot of government that can be cut. I've been on record for a year now saying, bring our boys and girls home from Afghanistan tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Tomorrow.
Amen.
There are certain departments in government we can get rid of. Oil subsidies for big oil, get rid of. There's a lot we can do on the spending side, okay? The second most important thing we need to do is, actually the second most important thing that we need to do is on the tax side, and you may disagree with me. I don't want to raise taxes to generate revenue. I don't believe you raise taxes to generate revenue. I want to get rid of the loopholes, simplify the code, and generally I want to cut everybody's taxes. Because I think if we cut everybody's taxes, history tells me we generate more revenue. We create jobs, we grow the economy, and lo and behold, we have more taxpayers out there. So that's how I get to revenue. But where Republicans and Democrats could have agreed, because Democrats don't like to cut taxes, and Republicans don't like to raise. But we even could have found enough Democrats to simplify the code. Because we're all sick of this crazy tax code. That the GEs of the world, you know, can come out paying zero in taxes. Guys like Warren Buffett and really wealthy individuals, they can pay the accountants and lawyers to pay nothing in taxes.
That's right.
If you're a Democrat and you want the wealthy to pay more and pay their fair share, gosh darn it, simplify the tax code. Get rid of all these loopholes and they'll end up paying. Last point, and on this one, so I'll give you, on taxes, the Republicans aren't straightforward. I'll give you that. But when it comes to the big elephant in the room, the Democrats do nothing but play politics. There is so much you can do to cut government, but until you go after this, you will never, ever, ever, ever deliver us from bankruptcy. We've got 10,000 baby boomers retiring every day. They're not living till they're 62. They're living till they're 92. Okay? Until we, as a country, figure out how to pay for all that health care, it's the biggest, fastest growing piece of the budget. Until we have an adult conversation about that, everything else pales in consideration. I mean, it just cracks me up. Tammy Duckworth last night said, the Buffett rule, the Buffett rule. The Buffett rule. You know, tax everybody who makes $1 million or more, tax them at 30% or more. Do you know what that would do to the deficit? That won't even pay for 2 days of the deficit next year. That's silliness. That's silliness, and by the way, it'll hurt business. Yes, sir.
Hi, Joe, Congressman Walsh.
Congressman.
Sorry for the insubordination. Listen, I'm an old man. I'm 68. I was there at the '68 convention. I was a Democrat. In '64, I was a Democrat. I liked the fact that JFK cut my taxes. Okay? Then along comes a little assassination, and LBJ takes over, and he ran through everything, including taking the money that had been in a lockbox for 30 years, since 34 to 64, and he threw it in the general population. He took my Social Security, and he paid for the war in Vietnam, he paid for the new entitlement programs, etc., etc. That's what's got to be brought to the people's attention. Fact. Number 2, I was at Tammy Duckworth's last Monday meeting. I was there in her quote. It's the first time I ever saw her.
Respectful.
I'm being respectful. I'm always respectful. That's why I don't have any scars. But the bottom line is that at that meeting, I asked her what percentage of the IRS federal income taxes paid by the top 10%. She had no idea.
But
Nobody in the room